momentum is building for a ceasefire to end the war in Gaza. Mediators are reported to have given Israel and Hamas a final draft of the deal today. And the head of Israel's Mossad and Shin Bet spy agencies are among those currently in Doha attending ceasefire talks in person. Now, a bit earlier on today, the Israeli foreign minister was speaking about the chances of a deal. Here's a little of what he had to say.
We see some progress in the negotiations. Israel wants a hostage deal. Israel is working with our American friends in order to achieve a hostage deal. And soon we will know whether the other side wants the same thing.
Well, let's bring you the very latest on this now. Live from Jerusalem is our correspondent, Noga Tarnopolsky. Noga, look, both sides have apparently been close to an agreement a number of times before, but it's never got over the line. So how serious do you think this current talk is of a breakthrough?
Hello. I think this current talk is very, very serious. But you're right. The devil is in the signature. And we haven't ever gotten there yet. Israel and Hamas have previously been at a similar stage of basically being all the way there and then taking a step back. It's important to note that in his statement yesterday, President Biden said that the current draft agreement is based on the agreement that he brought to the world on May 27th, 2024. So these have been 8 long months of treading water. The question now basically is whether Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, feels that he's politically safe enough in Israel to get this through, and whether Donald Trump and his team are putting sufficient pressure on both sides to press the matter.
And you said this deal has been on the table for 8 months now, Noga. Do we know then what the substance of it is? What are the details here?
Right. The details have not been released even to Israeli ministers. What we know is the basic framework. It appears that in the current case, we're talking about a deal in phases and that they would last several months is the latest we've heard. I want to emphasize these are all rumors we're hearing. Nothing has been publicly stated, but the Israeli government is making sure to tell the Israeli public that this is what they're calling a comprehensive deal, meaning a deal that will account for every single hostage, alive or dead, still held in Gaza. That seems to stand in some kind of contradiction to the notion of a deal in phases, but those are the two things we're hearing. And the main stumbling block until now, the main thing we're waiting to hear is whether Israel will declare formally an end to this war, which is a condition Hamas has demanded all along.
And look, speaking of the hostages, Noga, there are 94 of them still being held in Gaza. About 60 of them the Israeli military believes are still alive. It is, of course, look, such an agonizing time for their families. One of those family members is Ilana Gritzuski. Her partner is a hostage in Gaza. Let's have a listen before we come back to you, Noga, on what it is that she's been saying recently.
I want to address Trump and world leaders. We no longer want words. We don't want promises. We want actions. We want you to take steps to stop the war and ensure the release of all the hostages. Put pressure on both sides, pressure on Netanyahu and Hamas to end the war in exchange for all of our hostages, to bring back the living so they can heal and the murdered so they can be properly buried.
So, Noga, that the voice then of one of the families of hostages still held in Gaza. Would you say that represents the sort of main message of hostage families today? Because we know in the past there has been substantial anger directed towards the Israeli government itself on this.
Yes, I would absolutely say that her words represent, if not all of these 100 or so families, the vast majority of them. And what you're describing as anger that has been growing in recent months, At this point, it's basically rage. And what we're seeing today, for example, in the Knesset, is really, it's difficult to describe, but these family members, some of murdered hostages, some of living hostages, as far as we know, went to meet with legislators today, and they were basically cursed out of committee meetings. The finance minister fled when he was confronted by one of these families. The head of a committee started screeching insults at the father of a hostage currently in Gaza. There's a level of tension that's hard to describe, and representatives of the government do not seem to have any sort of coherent response to these families who are more and more desperate and losing hope with every passing day.
Noga Tarnopolsky talking to us there live from Jerusalem on that question of a possible hostage ceasefire deal. Thanks very much indeed.